Mats, I will hand over to you in a second. We just need this disinfection time. And during this disinfection time, I will tell a little bit about you. Mats hat Fotografie an der Danish School of Journalism studiert. Bis 2006 arbeitete er für Politiken. Politiken ist eine der 3 großen Tageszeitungen in Dänemark. Seit 16 Jahren ist er freiberuflich tätig für Magazine wie zum Beispiel das Times Magazine oder die Newsweek, ist international unterwegs, auch in Krisen- und Kriegsgebieten. Klaus nannte das Stichwort Afghanistan. Er ist einer von gerade mal 5 Personen, die in all den Jahrzehnten, die der World Press Photo Award besteht, den Preis 2-mal gewonnen haben. Angesichts des noch jungen Lebensalters darf man sagen, 3-mal ist ja wohl das gute Recht. 2-mal ist er auch in Oldenburg gewesen. Wir hoffen dann auf ein Wiedersehen in Oldenburg. Das Siegerfoto zeigt, wir haben es gerade gehört, 2 Frauen in Brasilien, Adriana und Rosa, die die Möglichkeit hatten, durch diesen speziellen Umhang sich nach Wochen wieder umarmen zu können. Und wir werden jetzt gleich die Geschichte von diesem Foto hören, wie es zu den Lichtreflexen kam, wieso das so schwierig war. Ein Punkt noch vorweg. Wir haben es schon gehört, das Foto ist deshalb ausgewählt, weil es ein Zeichen von Hoffnung beinhaltet. This picture reflects hope during the pandemic, and this is what we will probably hear now about the picture, how you made the picture, and the entire story behind it. So I would like to hand over to you now. I'm going to this place, and from time to time we'll translate a little bit into German. But for now, the guy we've all been waiting for, Mats Nissen.
Thank you so much for the kind words, for the invitation. It's lovely to be back here at your charming, cultural, historical, interesting village, town. Thank you so much. Can you hear the storm is coming? Can you hear it's getting closer? I hear the world is coming closer. Half a year ago, I was in the trenches on the border between Ukraine and Russia with Natalia, a strong woman in high heels who's fighting for independence too. For Ukraine. I was there, and now I follow the news every hour to see the development. Are we going to have such a great, big, horrible war in Europe one more time? 3 weeks ago, I came back from Afghanistan. Germany been at war in Afghanistan, so has my own country. We lost more soldiers than anyone else compared to the size of the country. I was there photographing the humanitarian crisis that is unfolding now since we all left. And I'm following the climate crisis. The world is coming closer and closer, and to me, one of the strongest, best, most engaging way to connect is through photography. Looking at an image, I connect, I understand. I do not only see, but if it's a really good picture, I feel. And that, to me, is the most important thing I will say today, is that the word empathy. This idea that by looking at a picture, I get a sense of what it feels to be you, or you, Klaus, or you, or even a mayor, or president, or a victim of a crisis. Through that image, I share some of those emotions. I think that's amazing. That, to me, is the true power of photography. So when the crisis of COVID was hitting our countries, I asked myself, what should I do? And I called a friend of mine, the Danish Prime Minister, who I've been following for quite some years. And I said, there's a crisis. What are you going to do about it? And can I move into your offices? So basically, I took my camera and moved into the parliament in Denmark, and that is the first of those 3 stories I would like to show you tonight, of all on COVID. So it's the first one here. This picture is taken on April 6th, just before the crisis got really big. At this time, everyone thought it was just maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. It's nothing big. It's nothing big. We can handle it. This is the Prime Minister on her way. Here, this is the first meeting where the European leaders are sitting together discussing the crisis. As you can see, Macron is in the middle. You have Merkel in the corner. She's looking at her cell phone, sending text messages. And it was quite amusing. It was devastating. It was sad, but it was also a little bit amusing because I cannot refer what I heard at the meeting, but I can tell you this, that they were no better at having online meetings than the rest of us. They were just as bad. I'm not going to reveal the country. Germany. No, it was not Germany. There was a country saying like, hello, is the microphone working? No. And it's like, oh, turn down your microphone, you're on. It's like, am I on? It's like, it was chaotic. It was chaotic. It was just as bad as all the other online meetings that we are now a little bit better at having. But of course, I was thinking, if you cannot have an online meeting, how can you manage this crisis? This picture was taken on April the 11th. So I'm mentioning the date because 11th of March 2020 will forever be a day that the Danes remember. And I'm sure you have your own date here as well. This is the day where, in a free, democratic country, they decided just closing down, putting strict restrictions on our freedoms. This is the moment where they've taken that decision. Later on in the evening, she would announce it for the public. This is the moment, the historical moment. This is democracy in the working, how it works. No conspiracies, no propaganda. I'm not paid by them. I'm independent. This is politics in the making. So this is the country outside. This is the result of the politics. Emptiness. Empty streets, no horses. There used to be horses here. The cranes standing still. Tivoli, the amusement park, all dead. Here we are a bit later in the process. Denmark was one of the first countries to really close down. Here they are opening up a little bit more. And to me, this is a picture of power. She, the Prime Minister, I love how her heel is just exactly like that. And I love how all the men, they're just like, you know, when a powerful person come into the room, the atmosphere is changing. And I'm fascinated that in the end, politics comes down to people. It sounds obvious, but still, this group of people, the Ministry of Health, the head of the hospital, the head of the police, the special advisors, that this little group of people were basically deciding what are we going to do. Are we going to do like Sweden, our neighbors, that didn't do much, they did not close much, with really bad consequences? Or what are we going to do? This little group of people. This is the moment that, according to herself, was one of the most hard moments of the crisis. This is where she's about to decide if we should open up. If you're closing down, it's emergency, you do it to protect people. But as we all know, it has big consequences to close down. Here she's about to open up. She has a headache, she has a back problem, and she knows that when she opens up, more people will die. On the other hand, if you do not, the economy will go down. What are you going to do? It's not easy. One of the big scandals in Denmark is that they decided to kill all the minks, this little animal. I don't know if you have it here. You use it, the fur for coats. They decide to kill all of them because the virus was spreading. So here she's visiting one of the men who had to close down his animal production. So I started photographing the power. Then I went to the front line of the crisis in my country. This is what's happening, intensive care unit of Copenhagen. This is Line with a patient calling for help. So maybe you cannot see her mouth screaming, but maybe you can see it in her eyes. She's calling for help, screaming for help, because the patient is really going down. Later, she said to him in a really calm voice, "Mr. Nissen, I don't think we can do much more for you. I'm really sorry. Maybe it's time to let go." So this is how it is. It's really hard labor, it's really hard work, because the patient needs care 24 hours a day. They need to be turned around. You see all the electronics. It's highly skilled nurses and doctors who are taking care of them. And you cannot just take another bed. You also need someone to be able to do all of this. This is Anna and Signe taking care of the patients. And here we have Mette is her name, with her dead body, another victim of COVID. And according to her, she never seen so many dead people in the morgue of this hospital. That is because of the COVID crisis. And these pictures were important for me because at this moment, it's taken in December 2020, a lot of people in my own country did not take it seriously. Why do we have to do this? Oh, it doesn't matter. Let the strong people survive. Someone has to die. You've probably heard it before. So I wanted to show that this is really happening, and it takes lives. To me, this is one of the stronger images from this story, because this is an example of when I said, it's not just about seeing what's happening, it's about feeling it. And when I look at this image, I feel like I'm suffocating. I feel like I can't barely breathe. And I remember this sound of another human being fighting so hard to take a breath. So here we have Lauke. He is 50 years old, and according to himself, in a really good health. Then he was hit by the virus, and it just took him to his knees. It took him even further, just between life and death. He's getting so much oxygen in his lungs, 16 liters, they're putting into his lungs. And he talked about, as he got a little bit better, I spoke with him, and he talked about how afraid he was. He has 2 children, and obviously he was afraid of dying. And that fear, you know what is happening around you. It was really hard. So with all the patients, I had agreements that if you could see their faces, I need permission. And when you cannot see the faces, it's because I do not have permission, only from the doctor. When you are this sick, your body kind of takes over by the machines. This picture to me is showing that. So this is Jan Klitgaard is his name. He's 63 years old, and he was almost about to go on pension, an early pension. He is working in with the Ministry of Economics. So Jan was just about to go, having the last day of his work, but then he got sick. He got it because he gave a hug to his grandchildren. At this time, he was really bad, and he was getting better. And he was getting better and better, enough to tell me what I'm telling you now. But unfortunately, as it is with this illness, it goes up and down, and today he's no longer here. All because of a hug to his grandchildren. And it's an X-ray of the lungs, and you see all the white dots. That is the infection, damaged tissue. And the last picture here of Martin by his father, at his father's bed. His father is named Erik, and he just passed away. And I was there, and I even spoke a bit with Erik before he passed away. And as Martin came, I said to him that I basically presented myself and asked if I could join him for a few minutes and take a picture of this tragedy. And he allowed me to do it, and this is the image. So it's Martin by the side of his father. There's someone who's not in this picture. It's the brothers and sisters. There are many more, but they were only allowed one. But it's also the wife of Erik. Where is she? She's at home. Why? Of COVID. So it's going to be a little bit more hard, I'm sorry, but in the end it will be on a bit more positive note. This last story I'm going to show you, I will be showing it a bit more briefly tonight, and then I'll be showing it more in depth tomorrow. This is from Brazil, one of the countries most badly affected by the crisis. To this day, 642,000 people have died. That's more than 500,000 people. 642,000. So this picture is taken from the main cemetery of São Paulo, and as you can see, they're digging all these new graves. They're digging them so fast where there used to be graves, and I looked down and I could still see bones and cloth and bits and pieces of old coffins. This is Paula, 99 years old, but she was well until the crisis, the virus hit her. And here we have the favelas, these poor neighborhoods. Obviously, it's the one that's most affected. Why? Because people live so close together and they don't have any money, so they need to go working. They cannot just stay at home because they're sick. They cannot isolate themselves because they live too many people together. This is Leonardo. He's doing a test of the people living there. And according to the test, half of the population already had it. And by now, I think it's 100%. There's no way to control it in those neighborhoods. This used to be a sports arena, playing basketball, playing handball, but now it's been turned into this makeshift hospital. I love this beautiful sunlight. Another victim. Maria at a hospital. What made me so angry about this is that I've seen how the politics, the first story I showed you, I've seen how politics works. I know what they can do. I know Denmark and Brazil are very different in many ways. But I also know that what was lacking in Brazil was the will. So Bolsonaro, the president, had this macho arrogance. If you're strong enough, you'll survive it. And did not took care of his own population. That's why it went so bad. So these victims, there's also someone responsible in the other end. There's Ronaldo by the coffin of his father who passed away. You see how the coffin is just made of cardboard. It's just the cheapest of the cheap you can get. It's a really, really poor family. Because, the most vulnerable population were the ones who suffered the most. So they're sitting there and they're crying and he's calling for his father. But then something really beautiful happened. They put him in the ground, they said goodbye, and they put all these flowers and some roses, and just next to them, because there were so many graves, there was a grave without any flowers. So Ronaldo takes a flower from his father's grave and puts it on the other grave. And I'm asking him, why are you doing that? And he says, because it seems like that person didn't matter. And everyone has someone who loves you. Imagine that. You just said goodbye to your own father in such pain. Still, you have the capacity, the humanity to think about someone else. So photographing people like Ronaldo saying goodbye to his father, Simon, and these other images you've seen can sometimes be really hard. And I wanted to show that. I wanted as an evidence. So Bolsonaro cannot deny what is happening. And I want to have it to show the rest of you so you know what is happening. But I was also looking for a picture that could aspire to some hope and show some of the things that I really love about South America. And that reminded me of another picture I took some years back. A picture that was also a very difficult story about homophobia in Russia, but where I managed to take a picture that was more like a love story. A story of two young people wanting each other despite big politics, like a Romeo and Juliet. This was this picture. And I've been standing here, I think, maybe there, some years ago, showing this image, talking more about that story. But that was the picture that gave me the World Press Photo of the Year 2015. And it was very controversial because some people thought that gay rights wasn't really that important. It cannot be that bad. Well, you try to live as a gay person in Russia and you will have different opinions. So this is John and Alex loving each other, kissing each other, despite all that crisis. So that picture inspired me to look for something similar, look for a picture of what I love about South America. So I went to an elderly home, Viva Bem, outside of Sao Paulo, because I heard they're putting up these plastic sheets on the church where people can hug each other and embrace for the first time in many, many months. And I thought it was a very symbolic thing, because we would never invent something like that in Denmark. We would invent something more practical, logistical, something rational, but a hug, that's too soft. So this is how it happened. You know, this is real. This is really happening. This is not propaganda, it's not advertisement. So this is documentary photography. What happens, happens. People came in wheelchair. Some had dementia. They barely knew what was happening. And they all came up to the plastic to receive this amazing hug. So Denmark is a little bit like the little brother of Germany, I thought. And so I prepared a little bit, because I know that you're also very skeptical to this, to these things. So I prepared a little bit, and according to science, actually a hug is very healthy for you. So it's not just something I'm saying, or the Latin American people are saying, that you should be nice to each other. According to science, it releases certain hormones like oxytocin and endorphins that will reduce stress. It will boost your immune system. The only bad news for us Northern Europeans is that you need to do it for 20 seconds. But you will see the result if you hug someone, believe me. This is what happened. This is how it was. I just needed to stand there and take a picture, not interfere. Then suddenly Adriana came. Rosa Lucia was 85. She hadn't been embraced for 5 months, isolation. So they just came and they hugged each other, and the plastic took all kind of forms. And in this particular image, it took the forms of butterfly wings, of angel wings, of whatever you see in this picture. And it's basically that. Then later, Adriana and Rosa Lucia were really happy that the picture was awarded. And Adriana told me that what you cannot see in the picture is that even despite that there's plastic between them, she could still feel the heart beatings of Rosa Lucia. That's it. Thank you so much.
Wenn jemand jetzt noch Fragen stellen möchte oder einen Kommentar, ist das herzlich willkommen.
Is this on? Okay. Should I do in English or in German?
Wie Sie möchten.
Oh, okay, I'll do English then. So first of all, I would like to thank you very much for all the pictures that you've taken and you've shown and you shared not only with us but with the world. And you said in the beginning, I think, that you think that good pictures make you feel stuff. And I want to assure you that they do make at least me feel very much. And at the same time, you were saying at times you were getting angry and you were getting sad. And still you put yourself out there in the hotspots of every crisis there is, it feels like. I hope it's not too personal of a question, but how do you deal with that, like being exposed to crisis on a daily basis, on a professional basis?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the question, and thank you for the nice words. I really appreciate that. It used to be that people who had my profession, they had the way of doing it, and that was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Sad but true. There's a lot of people, I looked at people who'd done my work before in the tradition, not all of them, but too many of them ended with broken families, too much drugs, just going from one place to another, and sooner or later, they don't relate to the people. I have this idea, if I cannot feel myself, then I will never be able to feel the people in front of me that I'm taking a picture of. So I'm trying a different way, a more healthy way. And I'm also, I'm open, trying to be open and vulnerable, that I think it's also important to have professional help. So I go to debriefings whenever I've been traveling, let's say to Afghanistan. And I'm trying to keep a distance between the travels. But of course, I will never neglect. It can be extremely hard. So just to finish, if I would give any advice, is to really try to listen to yourself, even when it's not convenient for anyone else. You just listen to your own emotions and then reach out for help. That is my best advice, I think.